It's finally time to talk about the homunculi we encounter across the multiverse. They're the first enemies we face in the games that don't require Bayonetta to enter Purgatorio to interact with and see. This is because these beings are from the human world. Their design and their presentation are very well thought out and they're pleasing to look into. Just to compare, the angels are named after positive, holy, or general good feeling terms. The demons are named after negative feelings, unpleasant, or sinful terms. The homunculi, however, are named using Latin words, but it's more than that. The homunculi have a very prominent cloud theme, and they're all named after cloud formations or phenomena. I recognized this pretty quickly when playing because I was obsessed with the sky and space when I was younger, so it gave me a great feeling being able to recognize the terms being used. I also learned a bunch of other terms for clouds that I didn't even know existed. Overall, the homunculi and singularity seem to take inspiration from Buddhism and possibly other dharmic religions, as many motifs used for them correlate closely. The most prominent motif is the use of lotus flowers. In Bayonetta 3, you find ghostly-looking lotus flowers sprouting everywhere. Touching these bestows the new currency in the game known as seeds. You also get these from defeating homunculi. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha compares himself to a lotus flower because it rises from the muddy water unstained. This shows the lotus as a symbol of purity. In universe, Singularity creating the homunculi may have chosen the lotuses to show his ideas of rebirthing the entire multiverse in one as pure and the only correct way to continue forward. Another view is that the way the lotuses and the homunculi both drop seeds could be a representation of Indra's net, as it shows the interconnectedness of all of Singularity's creations. Please feel free to share your own thoughts on their inspirations, whether similar or different. For this video, I wanted to do them in order of how they appear in the Anatomia complex to provide order in the world of chaos in true Singularity fashion. I did take a while to think about how to organize them, as they have a lot of potential for organization thanks to the more in-depth descriptions and information provided in-game. You could do it by their service life length, their size classification, their birthplace, etc. Before we start though, I wanted to talk about the homunculi a bit more subjectively. While their designs have grown on me, especially as I made this video, their impact as enemies doesn't impact me as much as the angels and demons do, even the fairies. An idea I have to change this is to categorize them in a similar way to the angels and fairies to at least give them some depth. There is no real hierarchy system, there are just stronger versions of others, and they are organized a bit randomly in the Anatomia complex. I think what would be nice is to create one now. I decided to base it on the troposphere cloud classification. Let me know what you all think. A feature you'll notice of almost all homunculi upgrades is that they all usually have purple armor-like adornments. So that is why the color ranges from cyan to purple in this scale. First is the base class, which I am calling the Strato class. This would be considered the weakest or lowest of the homunculi. Very quickly, the troposphere is the lowest layer of Earth's atmosphere. The clouds identified under Strato are considered in this low point of the troposphere, ranging up to 2,000 meters in the sky. The Strato class would be the equivalent to the third sphere of the hierarchy of Laguna. Next we have the Alto class. Alto refers to the middle grouping of clouds found at the middle level of the troposphere that ranges from 2,000 to 7,000 meters. This is the equivalent of the second sphere. The next group is the Cirro class, which refers to the highest group of clouds in the troposphere, which exceeds the 7,000 meter limit and reaches the average height of the limit of the troposphere, which is about 12,000 meters. This is the equivalent of the first sphere. Finally, the last of the groups, which is known as the Cumulonimbus class, represents the clouds that reside in multiple levels of the troposphere. This is the equivalent to the Auditio. Now for subclasses. All of the classes except for the Cumulonimbus class will be divided into two subclasses as you saw. All of the subclasses are named in Latin. I was going to initially go with Greek letters to reference the homunculus enemies from Astral Chain, but I decided it would make more sense to use Latin words to accompany the class names because of the way the homunculi are named. For the Strato class, the subclasses are Lapis for the lower one and Aereus for the higher one. For the Alto class, we have Argentum for the lower one and Aurum for the higher one. Finally, for the Cirro class, the lower subclass is Platinum and the higher subclass is Aramas. You can probably infer from the second to last subclass listed that these are the Latin translations for stone, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. I will be listing them as we move along, so let me know if you would switch any around. And with that out of the way, let's begin. The light humanoid generic model. Stratus is essentially the affinity, hideous, and ishi of the homunculi. It can morph its arms into different weapons, allowing it a range of attacking methods just like the other grunt enemies. It can liquefy into the ground to quickly move across the battlefield. Its description goes: the most basic type of the homunculus artificial lifeform, created by singularity through advanced application of nanomachine technology, and capable of replicating any and all human body parts and organs. The Stratus type can also fuse together to form various other types of homunculi. Possessed of no intelligence to speak of, they are incapable of acting autonomously and are controlled mentally by singularity, and the ribbons of light that extend upward from their bodies are bundles of neurofibers that act as telepathic receivers. In addition to being several times more agile than the average human, they can also liquefy their bodies and transform their arms and hands into various weapons. Stratus is basically a cell to the other homunculi, and you can see them featured frequently in designs much bigger than it. Only few homunculi basically have no trace of Stratus, even if they do have it incorporated. They're all pretty much biological automatons, being unable to think of their own thoughts that haven't been orders from singularity. Despite being able to form different weapons, their special skill is called its photon blade. In Latin, Stratus means stretched out or spread out. This is fitting because Stratus is the front line of most of the groups since they are the ground soldiers for singularity. A stratus or stratocloud is a low-level cloud like I mentioned in the hierarchy explanation earlier. These clouds look like above-ground fog because that's basically what they are. They are low-level clouds that are featureless. It goes without saying that Stratus is part of the Strato class within the Lapis subclass. I don't think anyone would disagree, but feel free to. The light humanoid assault unit. Nebulosus takes after Applaud, Hatred, and Bananak, being a stronger form of the basic grunt enemy. It uses a spear and can lunge with it or throw it. Nebulosus has two salmon-colored sashes dangling behind it. Like Stratus, it can move across the battlefield by liquefying itself. Its description goes: an enhanced Stratus type that has been given flight capabilities for assault, greatly increasing its operational parameters. The enhanced musculature it has to aid with flight stabilization has also increased its overall size, and it has been given improved attack capabilities such as the ability to instantly deploy an attack with a specially designed spear. There isn't much to say about Nebulosus, it's just a stronger Stratus. Its special skill is the spear it wields, which is called a photon spear. In Latin, Nebulosus means misty, foggy, or clouded. This word is a combination of the word nebula, which means fog or cloud, and the suffix osus, which means full of, overly, or prone to. Nebulosus clouds have no distinct details and look like a veil made of clouds or fog. Now onto placing it in the hierarchy. I am placing it in the Strato class. Its subclass will be the Aureole subclass. While it is an upgrade to Stratus, it does still have the term light in its title, and also the same reasoning as Affinity and Applaud. Those are still both third sphere angels with different rankings within their hierarchy, so the same will apply here. The Light Range Support Unit. Cavum is a turret-based homunculus that shoots lasers from a distance and can shoot straight into the air, causing an air laser strike. You can tell when you're being aimed at because it has a blinking red laser that appears before it fires. Its description goes: an amalgamation of several Stratus-type homunculi that has reconfigured itself for a long-range attack. It can increase its metabolism to perform cellular fission at an extreme rate and convert the energy into a highly damaging laser. Cavum is the first homunculi type we face on Thule. Its special skill is its photon cannon, which is most of its body. And don't worry, we only have one more photon skill left. Cavum in Latin means hollow, or it can mean a cavity or pit. Cavums are also known as a fall streak hole, which is a large gap that is usually round and can be found in the higher clouds. As for its place in the hierarchy, it will join Stratus in the Strato class and Lapis subclass. This is because I wouldn't classify it as an Alto class threat, and it wouldn't be in the higher subclass because it has an upgraded version anyway. The Light Range Support Unit. Radiatus is a faster version of Cavum. It can shoot a concussive blast if close to its enemy and can shoot rapid-fire Stratus-shaped bullets at a distance. Like other upgraded versions, it has additional adornments colored purple. The barrel of this turret is shaped like a 6-pointed star. It kinda reminds me of a flower or a snowflake. Its description goes: a Cavum variant with a unique mutation that has changed the shape of its barrel. Its laser energy output has also increased, and it is able to fire the energy from its mutated barrel in a scattered blast. While this mutation was not intended by Singularity, he recognized its noteworthy usefulness in battle and affirmed the phenomenon as a new type of homunculus. Radiatus is one of my favorite designs of the homunculi, and I like fighting against it. Its special skill is its photon blaster, which I'm assuming refers to the blast I already mentioned. In Latin, radiatus means to radiate or cause something to radiate. Radiatus clouds are known as striped clouds as they often appear to look like lines across the sky that converge at a single point. Radiatus is comfortably at the Strato class and Aureole subclass, as is an upgrade of an existing homunculi type, and I think it earns it with its speed and strength. The Light Aerial Unit. Lacunosus shows that it really wouldn't be a new cast of enemies if we didn't have a small annoying flying enemy to disturb the main flow. Like Deer and Decorations, Cachet and Compassion, Fury, and Pixie, who we discussed before, Lacunosus is here to fly around and serve as a disruption to assist other homunculi, and it is rarely fought alone. However, this one is probably the most powerful of the flying enemies that I mentioned. It can shoot quick energy blasts, summon a hand to grab opponents in place, and ram into enemies. Its description goes: a homunculus type that flies using its enlarged hands like wings and has become specialized for aerial activity. It excels at long-range attacks from high altitude and diving tackle attacks using its own sturdy form. While it moves relatively slowly, it has a strange ability to release large floating hands that automatically track and bind targets, allowing it to dispatch them at will. I know I always make those statements about the flying enemies, but I do think that they round out the whole team. They really keep you on your toes. Its special skill is Tracking Manipulator, which I assume is the green energy hand it summons to follow you around and try to grab you. The word Lacunosus means full of holes or gaps in Latin. This is a combination word of lacuna and osus, with the former meaning hole or gap and the latter meaning full of or overly, like stated before. Lacunosus clouds are a rare cloud pattern where the cloud looks like it's full of holes. They are very pretty and they remind me of when light reflects off the ocean. As for its ranking, it will join under the Strato class and Lapis subclass. While stronger than the other flying enemies I mentioned, it's still not a big threat and normally needs accompaniment. The Parasitic Control Module. Perlucidus is a small mosquito or even hummingbird-like homunculus with the ability to permanently take control of other life forms. This is one of the homunculi we don't really fight directly, as it is either fought by Balzable or we fight the people it has already taken over. Something else we know is that Singularity does not know how to organize his Anatomia Complex, but I'll go more into that later. Its description goes: a parasitic homunculus type that has the ability to attach itself to organisms and assume mental and physical control. While not much of a threat on its own, it is able to draw power out of a host that exceeds its normal limits, turning even a fairly normal human into the equal of a muscle-bound soldier. The host's nervous system becomes completely overrun, and all self-awareness is lost as they are forced to fight until their bodies fall apart. Perlucidus gave us one of the best moments of the game with Fertile Rondo and the absolute queen that is Balzable. Its special skill, Absolute Control, allows Perlucidus to completely take over its victim. However, it is shown that with enough willpower or mental fortitude, glimmers of their true self can come out, but by then it's already too late anyway. Perlucidus in Latin means transparent or translucent. Perlucidus clouds are clouds with small gaps that show the sky through them, almost like an inverted Lacunosus. Now onto its placement on my hierarchy. While not strong in its own, that doesn't really matter. The sheer number of them, plus the ability to control anyone, is enough to be a deadly enemy. It can even control other aspects past a person's strength, since when it possesses an Umbra Witch, it allows them access to infernal demons, as we see with Rosa and Bayonetta Beta 4. And Bayonetta deemed it a serious enough threat that she had to use the Deadly Sin ritual. For these reasons, I'm putting Perlucidus within the Cumulo class. This will likely be my most controversial placement, but I'm fine with that. It's my list after all. The Light Behavioral Prediction Unit. Mediocris is a nimble homunculi type with blade-like legs. Despite this, it's relatively weak and is more of a quick chip damage type of enemy instead of a threat. Its description goes: a homunculus type designed for enhanced speed with a lightweight body and highly developed leg musculature. It is able to predict enemy patterns by observing muscle movement and evades with amazing speed when it senses danger, making it all but impossible to attack with a lumbering infernal demon. Because its musculature has been reduced to the bare minimum to make it as lightweight as possible, it has low attack power and most often attacks in groups to cover this weakness. Mediocris is another one I find interesting and I like its design. Its special skill is Elusive Move, which likely refers to when it dodges quickly and leaves behind green after images. Elusive means deceptive or not real. I think they meant to write elusive with an E, which means difficult to catch. Mediocris in Latin means middling, ordinary, or mediocre. A mediocris cloud refers to a cumulus cloud that has moderate vertical extent with small protuberances at its top. If Mediocris was stronger, I'd put it in the Alto class, but it pretty much gets shut down by Witch Time, which isn't hard to pull off with them. I'll be placing them in the Strato class and Lapis subclass. The Heavy Humanoid Combat Unit. Floccus is the first of the homunculi we see get fused into by multiple Stratus homunculi. It has a long blade arm that it puts all its power into when it's slashing. It also has the ability to liquefy its abdomen to absorb enemies within it. It can pretty easily be compared to Beloved or Pain. Its description goes: a homunculus composed of a large number of Stratus types fused together to create a massive and highly resilient body. It dominates opponents with melee combat and was used soon after creation to lead extermination squads, methodically destroying and murdering. Although it is slow and is unable to make precise movements, its hefty body allows it to lumber along unfazed by most attacks, and it pushes through while sweeping its sword-like left arm through its prey. Because it is not under any direct control from Singularity, the fusion between the Stratus types that compose it is weak, and a sufficiently strong impact will cause its body to break apart. However, it can also utilize that weak connection to act in unexpected ways, such as liquefying itself to engulf targets. Floccus is the first big brute type enemy we fight, and we also see it in the first look of gameplay trailer of Bayonetta 3. When it takes enough damage from attacks, you can see multiple Stratus homunculi fly out of it. This happens to most large homunculi who take heavy damage. It can also meditate and create a barrier all around it that requires an infernal demon to destroy, otherwise it crashes into the ground and creates a shockwave. Its special skill is called Gel Eater. Gel Eater might refer to the gelatinous attack that uses its abdomen to pull into the ground when you fight too close in an attempt to absorb and attack you. In Latin, Floccus means tuft or wisp of wool. It can also mean something of little significance. Appropriately, Floccus clouds appear as small tufts in the sky. Because of its strength and because it is relatively not the biggest threat in this army, I think it belongs in the Alto class and the Argentum subclass. The Heavy Humanoid Combat Unit. Fractus is the upgrade to Floccus and is comparable to Pride and Gogmagog. It trades the blade arm for a giant hammer arm with a lotus-shaped mace on the back. Trying to fight it straight up will cause it to project a barrier preventing attacks. Like Floccus, it also does the move where it liquefies its abdomen to absorb its enemy into it. It can swing its hammer or shoot out its mace when you're at a distance or slam the mace into the ground to cause a shockwave. Its description goes: a variant of the Floccus homunculus type fitted with a large blunt weapon as its left arm. The Fractus type can separate a portion of its left arm and swing it like a flail, giving it both greater power and longer range than the Floccus type. It also has the ability to deploy an energy shield and cover the weaknesses seen in the Floccus type. Fractus' special skill is Bilbo Rocket. Little stumped here, I assume this refers to its attack where it shoots its lotus-shaped mace like a rocket. A Bilbo is a type of sword that doesn't really relate here. I'm open to guesses and interpretations. Maybe someone on the team was just a big fan of The Hobbit. Fractus in Latin means broken or shattered. Fractus clouds are when clouds appear to be broken fragments or if the cloud appears to be ripped up. I think it very comfortably fits in the Alto class and Aurum subclass since it is a direct upgrade to Floccus. The Light Flotation Combat Unit. Pannus is a floating homunculus that can split into multiple versions of itself. It can also self-destruct once it gets to the smallest duplicates of itself. It can rush at you and drop energy balls in a big number to cause damage. Its description goes: an explosive homunculus type that resembles a jellyfish and can float in midair. It splits apart upon being attacked, and when it can no longer split, it self-destructs, dealing heavy damage to the surrounding area. Designed as a bioweapon that is not only unconcerned with its own survival, but actively invites attack in an attempt to destroy targets along with itself, it is mainly sent into battle against large enemies like infernal demons. Pannus is, as the description says, jellyfish-themed and is a pretty strong enemy. Its special skill is called Quarter Divide. When attacked with an infernal demon, it splits into 2 smaller beings. When split all the way, one Pannus can split into 4, which is what the quarter from Quarter Divide comes from. Pannus in Latin means cloth, rag, or garment. Pannus clouds, also known as scud clouds, are a type of Fractus clouds that is found at low height and looks ragged. Sometimes they can be mistaken for developing tornadoes, which may be referenced in its move where it spins fast while attacking. Because it's usually tasked to take on infernal demons, I think it's strong enough to be in the Alto class. I placed it in the Argentum subclass because it does have a stronger version of it as well. The Light Flotation Combat Unit. Duplicatus is a stronger version of Pannus. It has a different method of attack. While Pannus divides into smaller versions of itself that split into even smaller self-destructing versions of itself, Duplicatus attacks by splitting into multiple versions of itself that can reform back into one. While split, it attacks in formation with only one of them counting as the main target. You can tell which one since it has a health bar on it. Its description goes: an enhanced variant of the Pannus type homunculus. Unlike the Pannus type, it aggressively attacks targets and uses its splitting ability to create unique formations and deliver high-speed blunt attacks. It utilizes several varieties of formations and switches between them skillfully to vex its prey. Duplicatus' special skill is split formation, pretty obviously referring to when it splits into 2 or 4 to attack. Duplicatus means doubled or duplicated in Latin. Duplicatus clouds are clouds with overlapping layers. Basically, they look like clones being stacked on one another. Like I said, since Duplicatus is an upgrade, it will go in the Alto class and Aurum subclass. The Heavy Enhanced Armor Unit. Murus is a mollusk-like homunculus. The most significant part of its moveset is the ability to gain a crystal-like strong armor. It can use its 2 tentacles with axes at the ends to quickly slash at its enemies. It can also shoot exploding Stratus missiles at enemies from a distance and can roll into a ball with its armor to charge at its target or spin in a circle. The shell-like arms or hands on its side can be used to jab at its target, or it can shoot 2 twin lasers out of them. Its description goes: a large mollusk-like homunculus type. Protected all over by an extremely durable iridescent exoskeleton, it boasts extremely high defense against external attacks. It possesses a pair of tentacles that end in hardened tips like sharp axes, which it wields to slash at enemies. It can also concentrate its own life force and fire an extremely powerful laser, but in order to do so, it must split and open its exoskeleton, exposing its body and leaving it vulnerable. Also, while its thick shell provides protection even from the savage blows of infernal demons, it is not airtight and is vulnerable to attacks like poisonous liquid. Murus' special skill is Amorphism. This references its crystalline exoskeleton that can morph out of its normal shell at will. It can also leave behind clouds of erasure for arena control. Murus in Latin means wall. Its shell is basically a wall when you fight it. A Murus cloud is also known as a wall cloud. These develop on the back of an advancing storm. I'm putting it in the Cirro class because of its strength, and it'll go in the Platinum subclass because they are much stronger than it in this class. The Heavy Humanoid Decisive Unit. Cumulonimbus is a massive homunculus. Its primary attacks are when it shoots a lot of quick energy bullets and when it uses its lasers to cause the ground to blow up. It can also cause a huge blast by targeting the ground, and it can also split its arms in half and rampage with them. Its description goes: a gigantic bipedal humanoid homunculus type. While of a seemingly excessive size, it is adept at ground-based combat, and uses its strength and levitation abilities to move with agility. It has both the offensive and defensive strength to take on infernal demons, as well as a variety of both physical and energy attacks that allow it to attack at any range. It can also operate autonomously, and if Singularity's control is broken by an enemy attack, it will temporarily shift into an assault mode, splitting its two arms into four, and utilizing increasingly vicious attacks in an attempt to remove any immediate danger to itself. Cumulonimbus' special skill is gravity control. Despite being a behemoth, it is pretty light on its feet since it can float pretty easily when doing a blast attack or using lasers to help it float, which is what I assume is what gravity control is referencing. Cumulonimbus is a word that uses two Latin root words, cumulus, which means heap, and nimbus, which means cloud. Cumulonimbus clouds are massive clouds that tower throughout multiple levels of the troposphere. I place Cumulonimbus in the Cirro class and the Platinum subclass because it is considered a boss enemy, but I feel there are stronger ones that would outlevel it. The Heavy Bestial Decisive Unit. Asperatus is a homunculus that just rampages to attack. It has one move where it jumps into the air to slam back down, but it's mostly rushing to attack with its horns. It can also run up walls, and it's a very fast dasher. It also has a roar that can stun its targets, so it can lead into yet another charge. Its description goes, a giant quadrupedal beast-like homunculus type. Its main weapon is its head, covered in thick armor and sporting sharp horns, which it levels at enemies while charging at them ferociously. The power behind that charge is astounding, capable of toppling and trampling even the largest infernal demons, and facing it head-on is not an advisable strategy. That same power gives it an agility that would seem impossible for its size, and it is capable of not only jumping much higher than its own height, but also of running along walls, making it a vertical terror as well. The key to stopping this beast lies in robbing it of its speed. Asperatus' special skill is Gigabore Charge. This is in reference to its primary attack where it just charges at its target. Gigabore refers to its beast-like design. Asperatus means roughened in Latin. Asperitas clouds, which were formerly known as Undulatus asperatus clouds, are a cloud formation that look like rippling waves that make a cloud look like the surface of the sea from below. I think it belongs in the Cirro class and Platinum subclass because of its strength and health and its ability to KO an infernal demon summoned by just tackling it and holding it down. The Heavy Bestial Decisive Unit. Volutus is the enhanced form of Asperatus. It's on fire now. It retains all of the same moves as Asperatus, except now it leaves a fire trail shortly behind. Its description goes, an enhanced version of the Asperatus type homunculus. In addition to its inherent viciousness, it has also been given the ability to emit flames from its hooves that deal additional damage to its targets. Like Asperatus, it uses charging tackles as its main method of attack and also leaves a sea of flames in its wake. Volutus and Asperatus are very simple homunculi despite their speed and power. They just like to charge and roar. Its special skill, Burning Bore, is just referencing that it's on fire and leaves a fire trail like I mentioned. In Latin, volutus means having been rolled or tumbled. Volutus clouds are long, tube-shaped clouds that are pretty rare to see. As an upgraded version of Asperatus, I feel Volutus would go in the Cirro class and Arama subclass. The Heavy Monitoring Interception Unit. Castellanus is a homunculus that sits on tower stacks and it projects a barrier to prevent enemies from approaching. While on its tower, it can shoot Stratus bullets, energy balls, or a charged laser. It also has several tentacles that can be used to attack. It also summons Stratuses to attack on its behalf. You can also see them on the molding of the tower. Once the last segment is off the tower, the barrier breaks and it starts to attack either by using the laser, slamming onto its target, or using the halo-like structure behind it as a weapon for attack. Its description goes, a homunculus type created for enemy surveillance and analyzing military progress. While it resembles a towering pillar, the majority of the pillar is simply a support for the main section situated at the top and out of harm's way. The pillar portion is composed of stacked segments which can be destroyed to bring down the main section, but each pillar segment can defend itself with abilities like producing Stratus-type homunculi and creating defensive barriers, making it a challenge to destroy. The main section can also grow legs and move independently if the pillar is completely destroyed, and can attack by throwing the ring-shaped weapon on its back like a boomerang. Its design likely references Buddha sitting on a lotus flower, which symbolizes a pure and enlightened mind, like I mentioned earlier. Castellanus' special skill is Unite Build, which references the Stratus homunculi uniting to make the parts of the tower. This is also likely referencing Unite Build from the Wonderful 101, which allows the heroes to rebuild or create structures using the Wonderliner. Castellanus in Latin means of or pertaining to a fort or castle. Castellanus clouds have tower or turret-like protuberances emerging from the upper part of themselves. I had a very hard time placing it on my list, but I ended up putting it in the Alto class and the Aurum subclass. The Heavy Distraction Support Unit. Nimbostratus is another castle-like homunculi type and also protects itself with a barrier, but this one allows other homunculi to turn invisible. It also shoots rings out of its satellite-like growths at the top of the tower. Like before, once the tower is destroyed, the barrier protecting itself disappears. However, unlike Castellanus, it doesn't move at all and cycles between shooting the aforementioned rings or energy balls. Its description goes: an enhanced variant of the Castellanus type homunculus. In addition to its enemy surveillance capabilities, it also has the unique ability to create dimensional distortions and mask the presence of other nearby homunculi for defensive purposes. Nimbostratus' special skill is Stealth Field, which references the invisibility power it bestows upon other homunculi within range. Nimbostratus uses two Latin words, nimbus, which means cloud, and stratus, which means spread or stretch. Nimbostratus clouds are usually what you think about when you imagine rain clouds. They are gray clouds that are thick enough to block the sun while producing constant rain. As the upgraded form of Castellanus, according to the description at least, I placed it in the Cirro class and Platinum subclass. However, personally, I think I would switch the two in terms of which one is more powerful. I think it'd be great if Nimbostratus would also attack once the tower is destroyed by moving like its predecessor. The Light Covert Response Unit. Uncinus is a serpent-like homunculus. It shoots lasers from a distance, and when you're up close, it'll go for a quick bite attack. It burrows away when you're out of its attack radius. Its description goes: a stationary homunculus type that reacts to approaching entities and attacks. Often deployed to defend vulnerable areas, especially gigantic homunculi, it attacks nearby enemies with laser blasts. While it can't move from its position, it can hide beneath the surface to later appear and attack instantly when an enemy is detected. Uncinus' special skill is Assault Laser, which is the laser attack it uses when you enter its detection range. The word Uncinus in Latin means hook or barb, fitting because of the way Uncinus resembles a hook because of the way it curves on default. Uncinus clouds look like thin strands with hook-like ends. Uncinus is a pretty weak enemy and only has 2 moves really, so I put it comfortably in the Strato class and Lapis subclass. The Heavy Covert Combat Unit. Tuba is a burrowing mole-like homunculus with a serpent half. It uses its serpent half to attack by coming up from the ground for a quick strike, or by going in for a strike while out of the ground. When its mole half comes out, it only surveys the area, giving an opportunity to attack it before it burrows back down. Its description goes: a homunculus type created for subterranean covert actions. Like a mole, it hides underground and approaches silently, its preferred method of attack being a surprise attack from underfoot. It can move swiftly through the ground using its enlarged arms to dig, confusing enemies as it appears and reappears seemingly at random. But when it periodically pops up to reobtain its target's position, it can be attacked and dragged above ground. Tuba's special skill is Undertaker. Undertakers are people who prepare corpses for burial or cremation. This is less of a reference to an attack it has and more of a reference to Tuba burrowing underground and attacking, so when it eliminates a target, it can be its Undertaker. Tuba in Latin is not in fact the instrument tuba, but it is closely related. In Latin, tuba refers to a long trumpet instrument over a meter in length. Tuba clouds, also known as funnel clouds, can be the signal for multiple things, from the start of tornadoes to waterspouts. Tuba is going to go in the Alto class in the Argentum subclass because while strong, it's not very complicated and not very threatening. The Heavy Assault Combat Unit. Opacus is a much stronger version of Tuba. Instead of being two parts like Tuba, where one is a snake and one is a mole, Opacus is both at once and it can burrow up from the ground like a snake to quickly attack, but it's mainly above ground as a mole-like enemy using its claws to attack by spinning or slashing. Its description goes: a variant of the Tuba type Homunculus adjusted to operate above ground and be more aggressive. Shunning covert attacks for frontal assaults, it moves nimbly above ground using charging attacks and even jumping dive attacks, zeroing in on enemies with a varied fighting style. The way the red ribbons on it are placed reminds me of the star-nosed mole. Its special skill is stick pressure, which maybe refers to when it morphs into a thinner serpent form when striking from below. Opacus in Latin means shaded or opaque. Opacus clouds are dark and opaque clouds that hide the location of the sun and moon. I'm placing Opacus in the higher subclass of the Alto class, the Aurum subclass. The Heavy Adaptive Combat Unit. Virga is a long dragon-like homunculus with multiple really gross-looking mouths. Seriously, it has more than 10. I counted 14 mouths, one on each of its legs and two on each of its faces. Each of the eyelids for the single eye on each face have teeth. It can shoot Stratus bullets out of the Stratus plumes across its back, breathe blue fire out of both of its main mouths, send shockwaves by stomping its legs, and charge at its target. Its description goes: a gigantic homunculus type with a segmented body. With heads at both ends of its body, it is difficult to discern the front from the back. Using that to its advantage, it tracks targets with both heads, quickly changing direction as necessary to pursue. The multiple legs that support its heavy body cause damage simply by moving, and also have powerful suction cups that allow the giant creature to even walk on walls. Aside from its raw power, it can also attack by firing blades of light from its legs, breathing fire, and even shooting Stratus-type-like missiles from its back, making it difficult to approach, let alone defeat. Virga's special skill is multi-wave. This most likely is the attack where it sends multiple wave attacks using its legs at once. Virga in Latin means twig, rod, or staff. A virga or dry storm is a vertical trail of a cloud that does not reach the Earth's surface. This happens when the precipitation evaporates or sublimates in midair before reaching the ground. Virga is a very strong and very annoying enemy. It's not a fun one to fight, but it is powerful, so it's going in the Zero class and the Platinum subclass. The Mega Aerial Fortress. Aureole is a massive ship-like homunculus where we see it among the invading forces across the multiverse before we fight it with Madama Butterfly. It has long tentacle growths with eyes on the end that can use to attack. These growths also have tentacles near the eye to quickly slash at enemies. It can also summon other homunculi to attack on its behalf. Its description goes: a giant living warship homunculus type composed of countless Stratus-type homunculi fused together. Its durability is unparalleled, with most attacks having no effect. In addition to attacking with laser fire as it flies, it can also deploy a wide variety of homunculi for ground assault. Aside from its role as an attack vessel, it also serves as a telepathic relay, and the bundles of neural fibers that extend from its hull send and receive orders, making it possible for Singularity to extend his control over numerous homunculi within a wide range. Its core looks like the largest seed the homunculi drop. Its special skill is Optical Absorber. This refers to the eye it uses to attack. This fight harkens back to the fight with Insidious and Bayonetta 2. In Latin, Aureole means made of gold, and in English means the circle of light or halo around the deity or saint's head. This is the only homunculi that doesn't necessarily reference clouds or cloud-centered phenomena. Aureole refers to the central bright area of a corona. A corona is an optical phenomenon produced by the diffraction of light, giving images of several rings surrounding a source. This can be caused by droplets in clouds, but also foggy glass surfaces. This homunculi type definitely deserves a high placement since you can only fight it with Madama Butterfly. I'm placing it in the Cirro class and the Aramas subclass. It was really close to making it to the Cumulo class, but we have angels like Resplendence in the first sphere, so that was my thought when placing it. The Light Memory Unit. Congestus is a clock-shaped homunculus that can control time, allowing for it to transform Bayonetta into a younger version of herself until she gets close enough to knock it down. It can shoot energy shots and set up landmines to protect itself. It's shaped kind of like an enchant. Its description goes: an extremely unique homunculus type with the ability to control time. Created and imbued with a portion of Singularity's own power, it can control and manipulate the flow of time within a specified area, rewinding or fast-forwarding it like a movie. It is believed that Singularity uses this homunculus when invading and destroying strategically important points to lock the event in time, preventing his enemies from interfering. This time manipulation ability is also effective against living things, and anything caught in range risks being locked in an eternal prison. Congestus' special skill is Playback Dimension, which is its ability to transform targets to different times of their lives. Once knocked down, Bayonetta can interact with it to warp time within a specific area. Congestus in Latin means collected or compiled. Congestus clouds are towering cumulus clouds and are an intermediate state between cumulus clouds and cumulonimbus clouds. Because Congestus is very easy to beat, even when transformed into a version of yourself with no weapons or abilities, I placed it in the Strato class. Because of its ability to manipulate time, which is a very powerful ability, I think it earned the place in the Aureole subclass. The Humanoid Module Generation Unit. Genitus is a stationary plant-like homunculus where it can produce multiple stratus homunculi out of the nodules on its branches. Its description goes: a homunculus type created to produce other homunculi. It has no method of attack and merely takes root like a plant using materials and energy it absorbs to continuously produce stratus-type homunculi. Genitus' special skill is Module Print. If you remember, Stratus' title is the Light Humanoid Generic Module, so the print refers to it printing multiple modules or multiple stratus homunculi. In Latin, genitus means begotten, engender, or produced. Genitus clouds are clouds formed or grown from consequences of certain factors. This includes both natural and human activity. For example, flamma genitus clouds are formed due to heat from wildfires or volcanoes. Because of its ability to produce homunculi, I felt putting it at the bottom was wrong, but it is very weak and easy to defeat, so I settled with placing it in the Auto subclass of the Strato class. The Chemical Weapon Dissemination Unit. Spissatus is another stationary plant homunculus, but instead of producing more homunculi, it creates poison air to protect itself. Its description goes: a stationary homunculus type that is placed in designated areas and produces poisonous gas. The gas that it creates internally has no effects on homunculi, and by spreading it over a wide area, it causes damage to enemies and suppresses the area in which it has been deployed. Spissatus' special skill is Poison Fog, which is its only attack. Spissatus in Latin means thick. Spissatus clouds only appear in the cirrus cloud type. These are dense cirrus clouds that can partially or fully obscure the sun and moon, and they're so high they can even occur in the lower stratosphere, which is the second lowest layer of the atmosphere. As enemies, Spissatus is very easy to defeat, and it doesn't even produce other homunculi, so I'm placing it in the Lapi subclass of the Strato class. The Barrier Generation Unit. Humilis is yet another stationary plant homunculus and the last of the three. They appear in groups of 5 or more and create barriers to block progression. Defeating one will allow it to respawn since each of them heals each other if they aren't all defeated nearly at the same time. Its description goes: a homunculus type created to generate barriers that impede enemies and defend other homunculi. Unable to move, it is usually deployed in groups that cooperate to form a barrier around the specific area. These powerful barriers keep out both physical and spiritual matter, and are vital in blocking enemy progress and defending important bases. Linked Humilis types also share vitality, and if only one of a group is defeated, it will soon be revived. As a result, a group of Humilis types can only be defeated if they are all destroyed at the same time. Humilis' special skill is Flawless Barrier. This refers to the Lotus theme barrier used to block progression that requires you to defeat all of them at once. In Latin, Humilis means low or short. The Humilis label can only apply to cumulus clouds. These clouds are low in the sky and flat. Like Spissatus, these enemies are very easy to defeat. You can get rid of them by summoning Ball's Poison Rain or attacking with Water and Gohan. They will join Spissatus in the Lapi subclass of the Strato class. The Mega Aerial Raid Unit and the Emergency Interceptor Unit. Iridescent and its core together make this massive air shark homunculus. I'm doing them together since Iridescent core is attached and part of Iridescent, so it felt right to have them together. It's so massive. The fight with it takes place primarily on top of it, where Bayonetta Beta 1 fights the weak point with multiple Uncinus type homunculi surrounding it. After defeating the weak point, you will then have to fight the humanoid shark hybrid core inside of Iridescent. Its description goes: a massive shark-like homunculus type that flies as if swimming. Although it looks almost elegant as it twists its body in the air, it scatters clouds of erasure from above as it goes, spreading destruction over a wide area. The cloud that covers its head can also create dimensional pockets in the spaces between the atoms of matter it touches, allowing Iridescent to phase through even the most durable substances like air. The description for its core goes: a humanoid terminal created within Iridescent's body by singularity to allow him to assume direct control. In order to expel foreign bodies, it possesses a number of offensive capabilities, such as the ability to generate extreme winds and adhesive fluids to trap targets. Iridescent and its core's special skills are Transmission Spectre and Aqua Breath. Transmission Spectre might refer to how it spreads around clouds of erasure, which is the transmission part, and Spectre can mean something widely feared as a dangerous occurrence, so Iridescent can be the Spectre of Singularity's invasion. It could also refer to how it phases through walls like a ghost. Aqua Breath likely refers to the liquefied clouds of erasure that you have to platform across while fighting the core, or possibly the ooze of liquefied Stratus homunculi where they can emerge to hold you down. Iridescent, which means brilliant, lustrous, or colorful, comes from the Latin word for rainbow, iridis. Cloud iridescence is when clouds appear to have colors spread through them. Iridescent and its core will both go into the Cirro class of homunculi within the Adamas subclass, since it has another form to follow it. The Giga Behemoth Decisive Unit. Arch-Iridescent is the first enemy we use the Deadly Sin ritual. We fight it in a massive game of Rochambeau using Sin Gomorrah. It can use its charged tail to shoot a lightning attack at you. It can also do the same move Sin Gomorrah can. These moves are slamming, biting, and blocking into an attack. Its description goes: a giant misshapen version of Iridescent created after it took heavy damage and reconstructed itself using the magic power gained from the Archive it absorbed. In addition to the incalculable destructive power it gained by growing arms and legs, it has also gained the ability to split its tail in two and use it like a railgun to fire massive projectiles of unimaginable destructive power. Arch-Iridescent's special skill is Cosmic Liner. This is in reference to its tail that can be used like a railgun, like the description says. Arch-Iridescent still resembles a shark somewhat, just one with arms and legs. It could be based on a megalodon, an extinct shark species hailed as one of the largest fish to have ever lived. It also reminds me of Titan from the Pokemon series. Anyway, I just said that to make a silly segue into the fact that Mari Shimazaki designed two Pokemon for the same generation as Titan. These Pokemon are Fido and Doxbun. She also designed Rayfer and Miriam. Maybe they can be the Bayonetta and John in the Pokemon universe. The Arch moniker comes from it absorbing the power of the Archive of its universe, being Bayonetta Beta 1 after she was defeated. Because it is a massive threat since it required the summon of Sin Gomorrah, it will go into the Cumulo class. The Mega Humanoid Exothermal Decisive Unit. Pyrocumulus is a fire-based homunculus. It is absolutely massive and has an ape-like disposition. It clings to walls with one arm and beats its chest as an aggressive sign. We fight it in the middle of an arena surrounded by lava and while riding War Train Gohan. Its description goes: a gigantic humanoid homunculus based on the Cumulonimbus type, with defensive and resistance capabilities that are fully adaptable to the location in which it is deployed. As a result of being deployed to a volcanic region, it has gained both resistance to extreme heat and the ability to cloak itself in flame for increased offensive potential. It can also influence its environment, creating what would under other circumstances be considered natural disasters, and can cause lava to erupt by slamming the ground. Pyrocumulus' special skill is Volcanic Bomb. This is likely referring to the falling volcanic debris before and during the fight. Pyrocumulus seems to be based on the Monkey King Sun Wukong. He is a literary figure from the Chinese novel Journey to the West. More on this later. Anyway, Pyrocumulus comes from the Latin words pyro, which means fire, and cumulus, which means heap or pile. But it's probably referring to the English word cumulus, which is a type of cloud. Pyrocumulus clouds I've already described earlier, since they are also known as Genitus clouds. They are dense cumuliform clouds associated with fire or volcanic eruptions. Pyrocumulus goes in the Cirro class and the Adamas subclass. It is an immensely powerful homunculi, so it deserves to go this high. The Mega Humanoid Aerial Decisive Unit. Arch-Pyrocumulus is another one of the homunculi we fight using the Deadly Sin ritual. Specifically, we summon Queen Butterfly. It is faced in a fight above the clouds where it attacks by striking with its staff and fireball attacks. Its description goes: an evolved form of Pyrocumulus that has absorbed an Archieve's magic power and gained new abilities. It can use a portion of its body to create a flight platform that gives it aerial mobility, as well as an enhanced ability to produce Stratus-type homunculi within its own body, which it uses to create clones of itself. By creating a group of multiple clones at once, it then confuses enemies and becomes an even greater threat. Arch-Pyrocumulus' special skill is Perfect Avatar. This refers to it being able to create perfect clones of itself during battle. Like Arch-Iridescent, the Arch moniker comes from it absorbing the power of Bayonetta Beta 2, the Archive of that universe. Now to talk more about the connections to the Monkey King Sun Wukong. Starting with the most in-your-face connections, it's Staff and Cloud. Sun Wukong is often depicted with his magic staff, Ryu Yinggu Bang. The staff can grow and shrink at the whims of its owner, just like we see in-game. He also has an ability called Jindu Yin, which is also known as Cloud Surfing or Cloud Somersaulting. This allows him to travel or leap 108,000 li in one somersault. This is depicted as him riding a cloud. Arch-Pyrocumulus uses a part of its body to convert it to a flying platform. Another ability the Monkey King has is called Bodies Beyond the Body, or Shen Wai Shen Fa, which allows him to transform any of his 84,000 hairs into whatever he wants. However, he mainly uses it to create clones of himself. Arch-Pyrocumulus also does this with the hair-like strands on its head. Finally, Bayonetta's climax references Sun Wukong's golden band as she summons it as a torture attack of sorts. This golden band or circlet was used by monk Tang San Sang, who used the circlet and a mantra that allowed it to tighten to cause headaches to control Sun Wukong due to his lack of control. When Arch-Pyrocumulus uses its fire attack, it summons 8 fireballs in a formation. This may reference the Bagua, a set of symbols from China intended to show how the nature of reality is composed of opposing forces reinforcing each other. It could also just be 8 fireballs. Now onto its placement in the hierarchy. Very easy Cumulo-class homunculus, especially with how this is the ultimate evolution of the Cumulonimbus homunculi, which is already a very powerful homunculus type. And on top of that, this is after absorbing a Bayonetta's power. I could tell a lot of thought went into this one because of how well referenced it is. The heavy tandem combat units. Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus are vicious half-draconic homunculi that fight together. They are both feminine-shaped humanoids attached to reptilian lower halves. Cirrostratus' left arm and Cirrocumulus' right arm are dragon necks with heads at the ends. Cirrostratus is a black Draco motif, and Cirrocumulus has a white ibis motif. They both have the ability to form barriers before slamming down to make a shockwave, as well as the ability to absorb magic. The description for Cirrostratus goes: an unusual massive homunculus type designed by Singularity with the intent to replicate gods worshipped by ancient civilizations. Its appearance is a far cry from any naturally occurring life form, with a lizard-like torso and humanoid upper body, and one of its arms is a tentacle that ends in something resembling a dragon's head. Created along with Cirrocumulus, its basic capabilities are the same, but it also has the ability to deliver powerful electric attacks, mimicking the divine judgment spoken of long ago. The description for Cirrocumulus goes: like Cirrostratus, Cirrocumulus is also a massive homunculus type designed by Singularity with the intent to replicate gods worshipped by ancient civilizations. While sharing basic properties with Cirrostratus, this homunculus is equipped with a complementary ability to generate an attack with extreme winds, bringing the divine retribution feared by ancients. Cirrocumulus and Cirrostratus are designed to operate and attack in tandem, and the structure shaped like a giant set of scales that they use as a combat arena is thought to be inspired by the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus' special skills are called Judgment Thunder and Judgment Hurricane respectively. Cirrostratus' main attacks are lightning-based, which is why its skill is Judgment Thunder, and Cirrocumulus uses wind and cyclone attacks, which is why its skill is Judgment Hurricane. Both Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus, as well as their boss fight, are inspired by the Book of the Dead. It is an ancient funerary text from Egypt. This is the transliterated original title of the text, which is translated to Spells of Coming Forth by Day. The judgment scene from the Book of the Dead is what the main inspiration is from. Anubis, the Egyptian god of funerary rites, places the heart of a scribe named Hunefer on the scale of Maat, while Thoth, the scribe of the gods, records the results. With the heads of a jackal and an ibis, they match Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus respectively. If the heart placed in the scale weighs the same as a feather, Hunefer would be able to go to heaven. Otherwise, he would be eaten by Ammit, the devourer of the dead. Ammit, who is a cross of a lion, hippo, and crocodile, may be what the dragon heads on their hands may be based on as well. Or even their entire design, considering they're a mash of a bunch of different things. I've already defined Stratus and Cumulus earlier, but cirrus means tentacle or curl in Latin. Cirrostratus clouds and Cirrocumulus clouds are two of the three main genus types of high-altitude clouds in the troposphere. Cirrostratus clouds are transparent cloud veils, and Cirrocumulus clouds are similar, but they are thicker and appear to be ripples in the sky. Since they were designed to replicate gods, like the description says, and they're very powerful homunculi, they'll both be going into the Cirro class and Adamas subclass. The Gigacryptid Decisive Unit. Stratocumulus is the last homunculus on our list today, where we use the Deadly Sin ritual to fight, this time using the Phantom. It is a fusion of Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus, as well as the Arch-Eve of their dimension. Jean Beta 3 is absorbed by Cirrocumulus, who is defeated by Bayonetta Beta 3. This is a short-lived victory, since both the defeated corpses of Cirrocumulus and Jean are consumed by the hand of Cirrostratus, which allows it to transform into Stratocumulus. Its description goes: this colossal homunculus type was created after the completion of Cirrocumulus and Cirrostratus as an advancement of Singularity's concept of replicating divinity, and with the application of ideas he found in ancient texts. Unlike the majority of other homunculi, which are modeled after existing life forms and with an emphasis on functionality, Stratocumulus is designed almost entirely around Singularity's design sensibilities and an image of what a malevolent god should be. Stratocumulus's design specs include both the Cirrostratus and Cirrocumulus cores, and their fusion and absorption of an Arch-Eve's energy are the key to its activation. Stratocumulus's four tentacle-like arms end in serpent heads that not only bite into prey, but can also spit fire and emit lasers, allowing it to attack at all ranges. It also has energy cores in its head and abdomen that would at first appear to be vulnerable, but it can shield one of the cores with a powerful barrier, adapting to attacks as needed. Stratocumulus's special skill is Totem Batch, and that could reference the different animal fusions involved in its design and lore. When fighting Stratocumulus as Malthus, its headdress lowers, which causes Stratocumulus to appear as a jackal the way Cirrostratus did. A design detail I hope is true is that Stratocumulus kind of resembles Queen Sheba and Jubileus. Bayonetta in her first design, Queen Sheba and Jubileus were meant to represent the most powerful creatures in their respective realms, which is why they all look alike. So when Cirrostratus absorbed Cirrocumulus and the Arch-Eve of its world, it may have become the most powerful being from its realm in that moment. Stratocumulus's name is taken from its constituent homunculi, Stratus from Cirrostratus and Cumulus from Cirrocumulus. Ironically, Stratocumulus clouds are low-level clouds. They are large and often in groups. Without a doubt, Stratocumulus is going in the Strato class and Lapis subclass, obviously. Just kidding, the closest thing to a god in the homunculi army outside of Singularity will be going into the Cumulo class. Well, we're done with this video, but you may wonder, wait, what about Singularity himself? I have plans for him in a future video idea. Anyway, here's our final tier list. Go ahead and let me know who you'd switch around and why. I admittedly had a hard time balancing because I didn't want too many in any particular category, especially with the higher ranks, but Singularity brought some heavy hitters. I made a poll a while ago asking which enemy class is your favorite, and at the time of this video, the least favorites are the Homunculi. How would you all improve them or make them more appealing? Let me know. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. These super long videos take a lot of focus, you can imagine, but I still do love making content, and I hope you guys stick around for whatever I have next. I'm not sure when that will be, but I have some ideas already. See you next time.